Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we'll be featuring the Tier 9 German heavy cruiser known as the Roon, in a Tier 10 domination game on the map Trap. I am not captaining the ship today, instead a subscriber of this channel, MiaYosh is, whereby Mia provided me with this replay a little while ago and I thought I would finally get around to featuring it. This replay as a result is taken from patch 0.5.16.1. Mia is not sailing alone, but sailing alongside his good friend the Norddeutscher, who is sailing out in their own Tier 9 Soviet destroyer, known as the Udaloy. As the pair make their way towards Charlie up on the north side of the map, let's talk about Mia's build, whereby Mia has their Roon fully upgraded, but on top of that, he is using the following captain skills: Basic Firing Training, Last Stand, Superintendent, Advanced Firing Training and Concealment Expert, and in terms of upgrades he has the following mounted: Main Armament Mod 1, Aiming Systems Mod 1, Gunfire Control System Mod 2, Damage Control System Mod 1, Steering Gears Mod 2 and Concealment System Mod 1. And for reference in terms of consumables, Mia has informed me that he prefers to have the Hydroacoustic Search consumable rather than Defensive AA, although we may question that a little bit later on. Now the purpose of showing this replay is because we can learn a lot from it, not just in terms of what Mia does well, but areas in which Mia can improve and indeed aspects we can take into our own gameplay. But for now, let's focus on what's happening and the potential thought process that Mia is employing. Now we can see straight away how the enemy team is taking C well before Mia and his teammate were able to get into the objective, which hints that it must be the enemy's destroyer, the Z-23, the Tier 8 German destroyer. Fortunately for Mia, he's positioned himself very well so that way his ally, the Norddeutscher, can use their smokescreen not only to hide himself, but it also benefits Mia and provides Mia with the ability to essentially begin to assess the situation. And as he finds out that the large portion of the enemy team is coming towards Charlie, Mia decides to turn towards friendlies and get away. Now the reasoning for this of course is because a large number of enemy ships, Mia and his ally are the only ships really contesting C, along with some support from the team's carrier, i.e. a Tier 8 American carrier known as the Lexington. And by turning his 6 towards the enemy, Mia is able to use the aft mounted cannon to great effect, whereby a key feature of the Roon from my understanding is the fact it has an AXY configuration for its 3 triple 203mm cannon turrets, whereby as you turn your aft towards your opponents, you'll be able to bring 2/3 of your fire towards your foes, whilst at the same time still angling your ship towards the enemy. And with its decent 20 to 100mm armour profile, if I remember correctly, this ship can ricochet a good number of armour piercing rounds and soak up the damage whilst dishing it out, running away from its foes. And with the 20.7km range build that Mia has, that means he's not going to struggle to shoot at the foes shooting at him as he tries to get away. Now we can see straight away how Mia is lacking targets for the time being and instantly switched towards high explosive on the enemy Montana, and we're going to see it set afire with that 13% fire chance. A good play, which means now the Montana has to choose to let the fire burn or exhaust the consumable in putting it out. But then Mia switches his attention towards the enemy Atago, the ship he was trying to find earlier with his armour piercing, and he finally makes his mark, scoring a citadel. A little bit unfortunate it wasn't multiple, seeing as those shots went in nicely on the waterline. But still, the Atago is reeling from considerable damage. Unfortunately, Mia is not going to follow up the first salvo with a successful second or third salvo. But never mind, we all have bad days in terms of accuracy, and that's the way things go. But the key thing here to note is how Mia has pulled his distance from the enemy team and has allowed his teammates to get involved on Charlie, i.e. those who were going between Bravo and Charlie earlier on. And as a result, this means that Mia does not need to worry too much about being shot at. Whilst priority target is not a captain skill available in this version of the game we're witnessing, Mia has already assumed he is not being targeted, despite the fact he was being spotted, and it means he can afford to leave himself broadside onto his foes and just open up with all 3 triple turrets and do a considerable amount of damage, finishing off the enemy Montana. Having achieved that, he's now going to turn his attention towards the enemy Hindenburg, and here's an area which I think he could improve straight away. The Hindenburg is bow on and is going to angle its bow towards Mia. I personally feel that after firing the first armour piercing salvo, Mia should have gone straight to high explosive, if not after this second salvo. Reason being, if he can set a fire or just score a considerable number of high explosive hits with the Hindenburg in the state it's currently in, he would have done a considerable amount of damage and perhaps even set the Hindenburg on fire. But instead, as the armour piercing goes in, it does some damage, but 2000 is not that much, and with no trailing fire, for example, it means the Hindenburg's health is going to be sustained. Although we can see now that one of Mia's allies has set the Hindenburg on fire, perhaps his ally in the Udaloi. Now as Mia tries to weigh out whether to fire torps, they're a little bit too early if they're going to be fired at this point with a 6 km range, of which the Roon does get 2 sets, quadruple sets, 1 to each side. Mia is now starting to pick up his speed and is aware of the fact that he technically has 2 ships bearing down on his position up in the northeastern corner of the map. The Hindenburg, and on top of that a Grosser Kurfürst, the tier 10 German battleship. Mia at this point has noticed the fact that he is the only ship between the enemy team and his carrier, whereby the Lexington is positioned in grid square E9. So as a result, Mia has told the carrier to start running, and in return the carrier is going to support Mia in his future endeavours. But for the time being, Mia is coming out of concealment at this point and going toe to toe with the enemy Hindenburg, and whilst it is presenting its broadside, he's going to try and maximise his damage of armour piercing, and we're going to see it does do some considerable work, whereby he is going to shut down gradually a very potent enemy cruiser, the Hindenburg being known for its rather dangerous armour profile and monstrous firepower. Again here, Mia decides to pick up on the item we were talking about earlier, whereby he's now switching to high explosive to set a fire by looks of things. So we can see how Mia is aware of the idea of using the right round, pardon me, for the right situation, but perhaps that's not too ingrained into his game sense compared to what I've seen from other players in the past, whereby he's already switched back to the armour piercing even though the Hindenburg is still presenting an angled bow. And as the Hindenburg now turns out to more of a broadside, we're going to see Mia score some better hits. I feel as though he's compromising some of his damage potential by firing the wrong shell at the wrong time every so often. And that is going to be reflected more, I would personally say, against this Grosser Kurfürst, whereby it's only Mia and the Kurfürst now engaging one another up in this northeastern corner of the map, or at least for the time being, as Mia tries to buy time for his friendly carrier, who is sending out planes towards the Ibuki in the central cap. Sorry, in the centre of the Charlie cap, I should say. I'm really making a lot of mistakes today, my apologies. Must be tiredness. Anywho, as Mia dumps in more armour piercing rounds here, I personally feel that he should be firing high explosive. Although we are going to see that one of the armour piercing salvos, I believe it's this one from his rear batteries, is going to do a considerable amount of damage, even against the bow-on nature of the Kurfürst. By throwing a lot of high explosive in here, he could have already set a fire and brought up a second one, and thereby exhaust the consumables on the Kurfürst and make the fire stick. He switches back to armour piercing, having scored a fire in order to maximise the damage output against the broadside of the Kurfürst, but we're going to see that provides some rather unreliable damage, picking up 4000 there, but then the next salvo I believe is going to do considerably less. Let's see. Now, if you did considerably more that time 7,500, it's the next salvo that does a lot less, as the distance begins to increase and the shots don't go in the best places. Now at this point I would have at least switched back to high explosive for 2 salvos just to make sure a fire sticks, and that way you could bleed a little bit more health off of the enemy battleship. And as a result, by maximising your damage, exhausting the consumables on that Kurfürst, it makes it more susceptible to damage later on. But his armour piercing application isn't too bad at this point, and we have seen it range from some considerable damage to a lot less, so we can't criticise Mia too harshly here as he picks up another 3000. And as we can see, with the Kurfürst's attention now being put on towards his friendly carrier, Mia is going to put himself right in the way of the Kurfürst, who seems insistent on firing high explosive, not sure why. Anyway, as Mia comes about now and essentially presents a gradual broadside, perhaps trying to gain the attention of the Kurfürst before turning his bow directly towards the enemy battleship, we can see the Kurfürst is having none of it, but at the same time Mia's also putting himself in a position whereby he can put himself directly between the enemy Kurfürst and the enemy Ibuki, that way preventing the 2 ships from being able to have a free run on his friendly carrier. And as the enemy Ibuki comes off of Charlie and makes their way eastwards out of that objective, perhaps to try and intercept Mia, we're going to see Mia's fully aware of it. He's already looked over towards the Ibuki and is getting ready to switch his attention. Firing off another bow mounted salvo from the A turret, not doing any damage that time, and I really felt that's where the high explosive would make the difference, at least at this point in the game, and the Kurfürst is now opening its secondaries. But Mia's already noticed the Ibuki coming over towards him. He's picked up a little bit more damage with 2 penetrations down the Kurfürst. He's bringing around the rear facing turrets at this point, and very shortly he's going to be switching to the enemy Ibuki. There we go, because the Ibuki is providing a full broadside, and he opens up with the XY turret and does a lot of damage, knocking it out of the game. There we go, another kill. He didn't even need to look at it to see that he'd taken it out. And by closing the distance here on the enemy curve first, charging towards it at maximum speed where possible, we can see that he's getting ready to launch off his torpedoes, waiting to the last possible second here to make sure all 4 go in on the target. Although he does lose his front turret and picks up 2 fires on the high explosive of the curve first, and one could say that if the curve first was firing armor piercing, it would have done a lot more damage, but you take what you can get. And having knocked off a considerable chunk at this point of the curve first, he's now coming about for the follow-up torpedoes, and he knows that that 6-kilometer range on his torpedoes means he doesn't have to rush to do this. He can take his time, get the torpedoes right, as they're reasonably fast and they will make it to the target. There they go. And as he fires in another salvo of armor piercing here, picking up only 2,000 damage and then a follow-up 4,000 damage with a second set of rounds, the torpedoes are going in, and that's the curve first gone. With his 3rd kill in the bag, now his damage total taken up to just shy of 182k, Mia starts to bear down on the enemy Lexington, and it's at this point that the choice of the hydroacoustic search consumable could be questioned, because as we're going to see, Mia is going to become the attention of that enemy Lexington as he charges towards it. He dodges the enemy torpedoes well here to only pick up a single torpedo hit, but unfortunately because he's not using the premium repair party consumable, my apologies, that's not the premium fire extinguisher consumable, let's just call it. As a result, he's not going to be putting out the flooding anytime soon, and that's going to drain a considerable amount of health. And if he had the defensive AA consumable at this point, he would be able to tackle the dive bombers that are coming towards him. And now we're going to have to wait to see if they score a hit, but if they do, the combined effect of the dive bombers and the flooding will take Mia out of the game, with the enemy carrier being the last ship standing. One set of dive bombers come in, causing a fire. He also takes care of the flooding, but another set of dive bombers are coming in now. And whilst the A on the Roon is that good, is it going to be enough? As he does 10,000 damage to Lexington? No, unfortunately it's not enough. But fortunately, the Lexington gets taken out by Mia's own Lexington, and that's the end of the game. So let's take a look at the post-game stats. Quite the interesting match then, and for the victory, Mia was able to pick up 459,076 silver credits, 9,431 experience, and in terms of his battle performance, he dealt out a total of 204,667 damage, consisting of 204 main battery hits, 8 torpedo hits, 2 aircraft shot down, 1 incapacitation, 3 enemy ships destroyed, 5 fires set, 6 floods caused, 2 citadel hits, 2 base defends, and 59 secondary battery hits. Looking at the team scores, we can see that Mia topped his team in terms of base experience earned, picking up 2,245. His main contributions to this match were in terms of the fact he assisted in the hold up on C, preventing the enemy team from taking and pushing through Charlie as quickly as they may have intended to, and his holding effect on the enemy's northeastern push, in particular against the enemy Hindenburg, the enemy Ibuki, and the enemy Grosser Kurfürst, protecting his friendly carrier for the duration of the match. Looking at Mia's detailed report, we can see how he emphasises the usage of his armour piercing in the Roon, whereby just under 50% of the total damage output that he made in the ship in this game was dealt using armour piercing, i.e. the 100,961 damage that was scored with armour piercing shells. Looking at credits and experience earned, we can see that after deductions, Mia walked away with 315,046 silver credits, and his captain walked away with 11,115 experience. To conclude, I think we need to focus on one key positive aspect of Mia's gameplay, which we can all learn from, and at the same time, one area for improvement for Mia, as no gameplay is perfect. The key positive aspect is in terms of Mia's game sense, especially in the first half, whereby Mia noticed very early on that the enemy team was going to make a large push through Charlie. As a result, he turned his 6 towards them and fled, but not to the point where he could not get himself in a good firing position. He used the AXY configuration of the Roon very well in order to continually output damage as he was pulling the distance, and as soon as he noticed the enemy team were no longer focusing on him, even without the captain's skill priority target, which was not present in this version of the game being demonstrated, he put himself in a position where he could open fire with a full broadside and maximise his damage output even further, before switching back to using the bow-on nature of his ship, alternatively the aft-on nature of his ship, to score hits whilst evading enemy fire in the second half, against the enemy Hindenburg, the Ibuki and the Großer Kurfürst. The weaker aspect which I think Mia can improve upon is in terms of his shell selection. At key points he was using armour piercing too much, where he could have perhaps used high explosive in order to maximise his damage output. And the key focal point here is on the Großer Kurfürst. There are a number of times when the Kurfürst was angled towards Mia to the point where armour piercing was not going to do as much damage as perhaps anticipated, and by scoring successive high explosive hits he could have set multiple fires and as a result burnt down the health of the Kurfürst. And in doing that, perhaps he would have conserved a little bit more HP in the close quarters engagement against the Kurfürst when he went towards his torpedoes, and by conserving additional HP, perhaps survived the onslaught from the enemy Lexington right at the end of the game. But nonetheless, Mia, thank you for submitting this replay. It was a brilliant demonstration of what the Roon can do, and a fine piece of delay in action. And so I've been TX141, and if you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.